Hey, it's Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets, and today I wanted to share this project with you and show you some tips on how you can get it to align straight on your blank. I gathered my supplies up and I'm showing a few. All of the supplies are linked in the description below. And then I am measuring my blanks. You want to measure this, and I'm going to show you why I do that here in just a second, but I write that down. And then if you choose to do so, you can paint the back side of your blank with one or two colors. This helps it to show. And then I'm using the drawing tools to draw a box the same size as the measurement that I did with my blank to use as my alignment box. And then I draw two small squares in the top corners and align those, and I'm going to show you how I use those to get this lined up perfectly straight on the acrylic blank we're working with. I send everything to cut all at one time on my Silhouette cutting mat, and I will have a video on how I do this exactly step by step linked in the description below as soon as it's available. So check that out. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Okay, so I have all my supplies that I've pulled in. I have my painted sign. It's painted on the back, the acrylic. Painting it, you could even add another layer. It's really up to you. It just makes it a little more of a visual. Acrylics can be very difficult to see sometimes and also very difficult to photograph. So I have that ready to go. I have all the pieces of my vinyl that I have cut on my Silhouette cutting mat, and I can go ahead and weed those. I also have pulled in, I printed a image of the final design, so I knew where to put all the little lights. Typically I would just look at my computer and compare it, but since I'm doing the recording, it's a little more difficult. So what I did was I printed it, and then I'll tell you, I had an oops. I had my sublimation printer selected when I did this. So this is actually a sublimation print, and I'll just use it for another project or add it to something for holiday decor. But I'm going to use that as my map in order to put this together. And then I have some Oracal transfer tape that we'll be using to apply this. And I want to show you how these layering marks that we'll see here in just a second are going to help us. The first thing I have to do though is I need to weed the excess, and I'm just going to leave this on my cutting mat just to hold my vinyl pieces down. You can do it either way. And I probably could have even conserved more vinyl, but typically I use the 2x2 square just for peace of mind, especially on a video. You just want to go slow and make sure if you need to help that vinyl anywhere for that cut, that you can do that. Don't rip it off like a band-aid. And then okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and weed the main design, and that is the main part that I want to show you. So here is my outer edge. That was my excess. Now you want to leave those layering marks on your design. They are there for a purpose, and we want to keep them. It looks like I got a really good cut, and I can go ahead if you want to. I didn't add weeding lines into here. You probably could have, but go slow. Keep the layering mark there. And then just making sure I'm still on camera. Go slow, so if any pieces do lift, you could push those back down like that one. I may have lost the eye. It has jumped somewhere. And that just happens once in a while. If I get going too fast, I'm not going to worry about it because I can just cut another eye if I don't find it on here. It's stuck to something. If I don't find it, like I lost that little, I need to help that dot. and it might not come. It came, and then the exclamation. So you can help those along, and I may need to reposition that. Or this I, I'm going to look for it, but if all else fails, I'm just going to recut an I. And if I lose this exclamation point, I'll just recut that. So it looks like it actually is there. I'm going to look at the vinyl. I have no idea where that I jumped. Oh, I see it. It's stuck between the N and the I. It's going to be very hard for you to see. Chances are, oh, I got it. Okay, so sometimes, and if it doesn't look good, I will just recut and apply it myself. So the whole design is not ruined just because one letter decided it was going to be a pain. So it's a little bit crooked. Okay. Good thing I found that. Otherwise, I just recut it. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Then I'm going to weed out the insides. Carefully. And I might speed this up so that you're not having to watch me weed the entire thing. Take your time and go slow.
And I sped up this video portion so that you did not have to watch me weed every single little piece on this portion.
Okay, now I have it all weeded out. I'm going to take my protective sheet and I'm going to place it down with the shiny side up and flip my mat over. Then I'm going to peel my mat away from my pieces of vinyl. And I'll set those aside. This helps to release the material and prevent curling of the material, and also saves the adhesive on your cutting mat. There we go. Curling isn't as big of an issue with vinyl, but it can be with cardstock. So I just use the same technique for both. So now what I'm going to show you is we're going to start with the main part of the design. I'm going to take a piece of transfer tape and I'm going to cut it down to the size I need. I like to give myself a little extra space just in case. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully put the transfer tape on as smooth as possible. And it's another thing just to practice, get the hang of. And whether you're right or left-handed, whichever direction you come from. So it's just going to take some practice. And then I'm going to, you can use your hand to smooth it down, or I'm going to take a spatula and carefully smooth that down as I go. Your hand sometimes can be a bigger surface area. And then I take my spatula and I'm going to burnish it. So I'm going to burnish it on the front. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to burnish it on the back side. And then I'm going to carefully remove the backing. And I want to peel it at a sharp angle that will help it release, and watch it as I do so I can help any letters to stick to the transfer tape. Another trick that I learned from one of the other Silhouette instructors named Kelly Wayment is use your burnishing tool or your spatula, and you can hold pressure down on your design as you peel the backing away, and this can be helpful until you get too large of a piece, and then sometimes it doesn't work. It takes practice. All of it takes practice, and just go slow. But I want to make sure to keep that registration mark, or that layering mark, alignment mark, whatever you call it. Oh, pick up that dot. If you cut into the backing too much, so if your settings are too deep, it will be harder for it to release from that backing because it's broken the surface of that. This looks like a pretty good cut. I'm not seeing, I can barely see the lines of the design in the backing. So I'm just going slow. And if you can't get it from one direction, you can always come at the letter from a different direction. There's a dot that didn't stick, or a comma. And I know I have a little dot down here, which I can always pick up. Just be careful. I can always pick that up here in just a second. I'm not going to worry about it right now because I don't want to mess up the whole design. So what I do is I'm going to take the backing from my transfer tape and I'm going to cover everything but the registration marks, or the layering alignment marks. So I'm going to cover that. My design is between those layering marks because I have it on the full, I use the full acrylic as my design. So it's still going to be layered there. But one thing when you're working with acrylic is vinyl sucks down very, very quickly and sticks very, very well to acrylic. So now what I'm going to do is I have made these alignment marks thanks to Barb Foster at Let's Go Silhouetting. I learned this trick in her class in the All Things Silhouette conference. I'm using these to line this up with the top of, or the straight edge of my acrylic. So if I have that odd shaped, it has a circular shape that was in my template drawing, I would use the bottom because it's flat. So you want to just work with whatever blank you're using. And I'm going to use those layering marks or alignment boxes that I've created, and I'm going to line those up in the top of my acrylic. And this way I can get my design, hopefully, on as straight as possible. And on camera is always more interesting. And then once I have that, I'm going to smooth that down. Again, vinyl sticks very, very well to the acrylic. I'm going to carefully peel this back. Make sure all those letters are stuck. Remove that. And then what I can do is I can just slowly use my burnishing tool and lay this down as flat as possible. And then if we did all of our math and we lined that up well, our design should be centered and straight on our blank. And then I'm just going to carefully remove this. Again, vinyl sticks very, very well. And what I should have done is I should have cleaned the acrylic with alcohol, just an alcohol swab to get rid of any oils or anything that's on the acrylic. I got excited and I forgot. There we go. So now I put my protective backing on and I reuse my transfer tape. So there is my sign. Now what you can maybe see on camera, I don't know, I have some bubbles and stuff in my vinyl. One thing I could do is I could just lay this back down and kind of burnish that out. It's not going to take care of all the bubbles, but if you set this in a warm, sunny spot, or even just let it be for 72 hours, you'd be surprised at how many of those bubbles are gone. Usually I can't even tell after the vinyl's set up. And then what you want to do is carefully remove these layering marks. Now, it's acrylic. Acrylic scratches easily, so just make sure to do this carefully. Now, this particular sign is a sign from Michael's that I picked up. Unfortunately, they, seasonal wise, they don't carry all the same products all the time. So I don't have a link, but I'll put up some links to possible things that would work for this acrylic sign. And then now all I have left is to use this as my template, and I'm going to just start putting all of the lights on. So I'll show that a little bit, and then I will speed everything up and we'll show you a photo of the finished project. I'm going to turn it upside down to make it easier to work. And then I'm going to take a smaller piece and I'm just going to start with the blue. And I can cut this down to the size I need and save those pieces for later. And then we'll just do each color. So I'll start here. Pretty much in this design, they are all the same shape, so I don't think it really matters as far as placement.
Now, I've also sped up this section of the video because you don't need to see me taking my time and trying to get it all lined up. As I went, I learned little ways that I could be faster about it. I took some risks with adding several to one piece of transfer tape because it got to be kind of difficult to use such small pieces of transfer tape. So you'll see that as we go through the video here, but I wanted to share the whole process with you.
And what I realized is that with the sublimation print, it does make a difference because it flipped this. So it's giving me a little bit of, if you can see here, my light is on the opposite side. So I could spend all my time trying to mix and match, or I can just go print another sheet, trying to decide if I want it, which I want to do.
So I did end up reprinting through my regular printer, and I'll just save that sublimation blank and use it for some other project. But I just wanted to save myself some brain work on trying to flip everything in my head as I went along. So through the whole process, I have just one little light bulb at a time. I added those on, and it may seem tedious, but I really like the project. I really like how it turned out. And I saved a whole lot of vinyl by combining my pieces into smaller sections of that 2" by 2" square. You can see here as I went along, I tried the larger pieces of the transfer tape, and I was just very careful to only stick one light down at a time. And you'll see my head get in there quite often with the camera because just the glare and trying to get those lined up.
Okay, now I have all of that done. Took a little bit of time, and like I said, those bubbles should work out. I don't mess with it any more than it already is because you could gouge the acrylic or the vinyl itself. So I'm just going to leave this and leave it in a warm sunny spot, and all of those should work itself out. I am going to add that little tiny dot that did not get picked up, and it will be the last thing if it will come off. There we go. And put this on my exclamation point. And there we have our finished sign. Using those layering marks, thanks to Barb Foster at Let's Go Silhouetting, I can make sure my designs are straight on my acrylics now. Here is a photo of the finished project. Hope those tips help. Thanks for joining Silhouette Secrets on YouTube. Have a great day.